Hey everybody, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Mainstream Monday here on Horror Film Lovers. I'm your host, Jonathan Moody, and I'm here with
John Ward.
John Ward, my trusty sidekick, who's
That's
been here, co-host, sidekick, same, similar, you know,
partner.
partner. Partner sounds romantic, you know.
That way people can just look at it any way they want to.
Okay. All right,
Yeah.
partner.
Yeah.
Co-host, partner, sidekick,
Lover.
extraordinaire. John Ward. So, we're going to
Lover.
be talking about M3GAN, but before we do, we did say that we would discuss some stuff about Dead Silence, and John's got some things to discuss about Dead Silence. So take it away, John.
So I did watch all the special features on the DVD, like I said I would. And then I even watched stuff on YouTube. And the ending still makes absolutely no sense.
Mm,
I watched an interview with Lee Winnell, who does not like the movie. He said that he's
mm.
come around, but overall, it was a ton of studio meddling and interference and all that.
Studio interference, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so that was a pitch that he did, and they just well, what if she was a dog, or well, what if the film took place in space type of stuff, and
Wait,
now he
that really
just
happened?
no, I'm just that's studio stuff,
Ah,
like just changing things, and now he only writes spec scripts because he
and
doesn't
his
want to go
name
through
is
that again.
Specs in the Insidious movies, so kind of
That is
makes sense.
correct.
Maybe
Yeah,
that's why he named
and
his character Specs.
because everything is specs now,
Hmm.
specs script. Um, and most of the deleted footage that I watched doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. There is a groundskeeper that I like. There's
You
two
told me
scenes of
about him.
Yeah, there's two scenes of him with the son at the gate that I liked, and then he is shown dead later,
Hmm.
and these are before the effects are done. So it says like next to it, it says like VFX death mask or something
Ah,
like that right next to his face. So I'm guessing because you just see him like by a door like this. So I'm guessing they were supposed to
I'm
put
so
in
glad you didn't get frozen like that.
and he
Yeah.
and then he I guess they're gonna put that thing with like the tongue out and the jaw ripped off and all that. So I'm guessing that was like a visual effect. But I wish that they would have left him in. I kind of like his stuff because he kind of gets information from the son and he gives information back to the son. As far as the ending goes, it still makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. There is a kind of like a bookend type thing where we see at the very beginning a woman with a candle. We don't see her face, and she's talking to like a kid about Mary Shaw, and it's like, well, what if I scream? She's like, well, don't scream. Well, what if I scream? Then don't scream. And then we see later on, which I guess is supposed to be at the end of the movie, that
Hmm.
it's the stepmom and
Right.
the kid is the son. And once again, it's got the thing on there and it says VFX death mask. So I guess he's in the bed all, like that with his tongue all out. And she's now operating him like a doll, I guess. So that makes no sense. And then there's an alternate ending that is similar to the one that's in the movie, but it still makes no sense at all. And I
Hmm.
think that they came up with ideas and had no idea how to finish them. I mean, the whole thing of um, that the stepmom, is controlling the dad with the little, as the
Is it like a
puppet.
puppet? Yeah.
Yeah, and then the food goes down and makes no sense at
Mm-mm.
all because it's is the mom a gold digger? No, because she's making the dad still.
I thought like, because I saw like a little bit of an alternate take. I don't know if it's one of the ones that you showed me or whatever, but it was like, where she was apparently, um, she got possessed or something by
Yeah,
the
she goes to
by
the graveyard where Mary is and all the dolls are
right,
buried. She digs up the main doll and
right.
she's looking at it,
Billy.
and Billy, and once again it says like visual effect Mary Shaw's spirit
Right.
or ghost. And I guess it's supposed to go from the doll mouth into her mouth.
Yep.
So then Mary possesses her. Why?
And then
Why?
she ends up marrying that guy, and she was only marrying that guy, the man, the father, because she was going to kill him and use his body as a puppet to lure the son and to kill the son, I guess.
I don't know. I really don't know, because you figure that somebody who's that young and that attractive might be using an old man who's now in a wheelchair for money, but she doesn't
Right.
seem to be using him for money. Like I don't know what
None
her
of it really
motive
makes any
is.
sense because later, we talked about this before, but later the mom or the lady that the morgue attendant's wife says, your dad was here to pick up whatever, right? How was the dad there if the mom is controlling? She would have said, your stepmom and your dad were there. So like
Right.
none of anything makes sense. This movie, and it just came out on 4K. Honestly, I don't think I'd want it, you know? Like I don't care. And like now that I'm like thinking about it, I don't think I could like it's got some really cool shots and I wouldn't mind watching it again, but not like over and over and over again. I don't know.
I think it's that ending that ruins it. I mean, I think
Yeah.
it's a solid film all the way up to the Saw reveal at the end, where they have the same music from Saw, the same editing from Saw. We see
Mm-hmm.
all those flashbacks in the same way that Saw was done, which I think hurt the movie, because then it's like, oh, these guys can't do anything else but Saw. And the ending makes no sense, even though it's kind of cool seeing her operating the dad with the wood thing. But
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think that it's like they said certain things in the film to throw you off, kind of in
Mm-hmm.
the same way like with M Night did with the Sixth Sense.
Right.
And a lot of people like the Sixth Sense, but when you after you watch it once, it turns into bad writing. Because if Bruce Willis is dead, why wouldn't he know he's dead if nobody's talking to him?
Right.
He would walk into a restaurant and nobody would talk to him. He'd get onto a bus and nobody would talk to him. It makes no sense that he doesn't know that he's dead, but you obviously can't do that. Because you got to have the big twist at the end. The
You
the
know what
so
could have been cool for Sixth Sense? If they did have like ghosts around like him, like other ghosts that do talk to him. But they talk to him like, he's human, right? So like maybe some people kind of ignore him, but then later, other ones come up and say, "Hey, how you doing?" Right? And have conversations with him,
Yeah,
and then he could feel like he's among the living, and he would look like he's among the living, so you wouldn't have a clue that he's dead. And then you reveal he's dead, and then I guess it would do that whole flashback thing of showing all the different people that he did talk to that were ghosts, and the people that he didn't talk to, or that didn't talk to him, kind of thing. But
with
I
with
agree. Like,
Wahlberg, who shot him, who was also in Dead
yeah.
Silence.
Well, there's a connection right there
Yeah, yeah.
to Sixth
Well,
Sense.
the scene that kills me, and I point this out a lot to people with the Sixth Sense, is when Bruce Willis is on one side of the hall and the mom's on the other side of the hall, and they're not talking to each other, they're waiting for the son.
Hmm.
That's the scene that M. Night put in there to make people think he's not dead. But maybe if the scene went on for an extra 30 seconds, he'd be like, "Why aren't you talking to me? Hey, mom, why aren't you talking to me? I'm right here. Talk to me."
Yeah, she never talks to him, so
She
like,
never talks to him. He never talks to her. So it's a total cheat. And that's what they did with Dead Silence, is they
spoiler for
did
Sixth Sense, but if you haven't seen it
it's
yet,
30
I don't
years
know.
ago or
Like,
whatever.
that's not.
But yeah, but it's the same thing in Dead Silence. is you have to, and My Bloody Valentine 3D did the same thing, is you have to put in those scenes, otherwise they won't work. Like the film won't work. So you have to cheat the audience, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can't let people know that the guy who comes back to town in My Bloody Valentine is actually the killer.
Right.
So you have to have a scene of them staring at each other in between, like a fence. But it's actually in his head, which we find out later on. But the audience doesn't know that at first. They just think that he's locked in a
It's
cage.
all a dream.
Yeah. So it's that to me is not very good writing, because as you pointed out, it just says, "Oh, your dad." That doesn't make any sense. The dad wouldn't come down. The dad's been dead.
Yeah, and wouldn't everybody else know that he's dead? Or I guess not, because she's using him as a puppet. But
yeah, I guess if the town is kind of
wouldn't he also
destroyed, and
stink? Like, how
unless,
long ago has she turned him into this puppet?
yeah, because it's all flesh. It's not wood. You
Yeah,
see that his like spine is missing and all that.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's
so
pretty.
yeah, he would stink.
He would
So
stink, and so I'm surprised that they didn't write a line where, oh man, what's that smell? I mean, that's a simple line because that doesn't mean anything. Nobody's gonna go, the man's dead, and she's using him as a, you know what I mean? Like you still wouldn't get that, but you'd at least you look back and go, hey, he mentioned the smell, right? Like,
yeah.
no.
Oh, your dad hasn't bathed in a couple days or something like that.
Yeah.
And then I finally realized, when he turns the little flap and it says like the perfect puppet and it's the stepmom's picture,
Mm-hmm.
I finally realized what that meant.
Okay.
Because she's possessed. That's the ultimate puppet. Is
A
that Mary
possessed person.
Shaw has possessed her and is using her body. That's the ultimate puppet.
So, all right, this is the last thing we're going to talk about with this. Then I think we should move on to M3GAN because we are talking way too much on this. But here's the thing. There are no rules, right, when it comes to supernatural stuff necessarily because you're making up your own rules, right? Because, laws of, natural shit doesn't apply, right? Um, So my biggest problem with her is how can Mary be everywhere all the time? You see what I'm saying? She's possessing all the puppets. She's possessing the woman. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like,
Right.
how is that? There's the one part where she's that puppet, that one puppet, and he's like, Mary, is that you? And she's like, yep, it's me. How is she doing this everywhere and possessing the ultimate puppet? Like, does she just hop from one thing to another? And I mean, because I literally think this was probably had a really fun idea, for Lee. Lee was just like, you know what, I'm gonna create this really fun project, and then, and I'm gonna pitch it, and I pitch it, I'm like, you know what? What if she did possess the puppet? And he was like, oh, what? Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's not what I was thinking, and then too many people butted heads in there and, you know, kind of got into the whole thing. And there you go. The movie just fucked
Yeah.
up.
It's good until the end.
Yeah.
Then it's a giant mess.
Yeah.
So
And the alternate endings do not help. They just make it worse.
no, and they're like oddly edited, and so it's hard to tell what's going on.
Yeah.
It's none of it makes sense. Absolutely none of it makes sense.
Thank you, Lee. We love you, but all right. I'd probably change my thing now because the ending did ruin it. I'd probably change my score. I think I did a higher than it probably should get, but it's okay. All right. So moving on to M3GAN, M3GAN, with a 3 in her name,
Yes.
because what was her name? Like it was something 3.
Well, people should check out the Insidious 5 trailer, Insidious: The
Oh
Red
yeah.
Door, I now like the name. And the trailer I think looks really good. And since you have not seen it, I'm not going to say what's in it unless you want to see it. But
I'll
I
definitely
will
see it.
say, yeah, I was very happy with the trailer. I am now looking forward to it. The one thing that I'm happy about is that the son is back. He's now just like 18, so just looks like a big football player. And so it's nice that they got like everybody back. Like there's no, from what I could tell from the trailer, it doesn't look like they recast anybody, so that's good. And funny thing is, um, I'm watching a show that's on Netflix called Insatiable,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like a high school revenge dark comedy Heathers type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And near the end of the first season, the lead girl, who's gorgeous, she was on some Nickelodeon show, so you might even know who she is because she's like a singer and all that stuff. But
Not Ariana Grande or anything.
no, no, no.
You know who
Um,
she is.
yes. She thinks she's pregnant because she just had sex for the first time. She thinks she's pregnant because she's throwing up. They do an X-ray. She has the same type of twin that was in oh god, now I'm having a hard time pronouncing it.
Malignant.
Malignant. They say that when she and I'd have to look to see which one came out first, but they say that she was twins in the womb. She ate her twin. Her twin is now in her stomach and now wants out. And so a priest tells her that it's a demon, and so it starts controlling her.
That's in the show, Insatiable?
Yeah, yeah.
That is interesting.
And it went from this revenge high school type of thing, like Euphoria almost. That
Right.
and then
Debbie Ryan.
She is freaking gorgeous. Oh my
Okay.
god.
She was in, I think, yeah, she was in Jessie. Jessie was her big thing. It's on Disney show, you
Oh,
know.
Disney. Okay. Yeah. So it was just really funny. I'm like, wait, which one came? Did somebody steal from somebody?
No, I
Is it?
mean, if anything, they both stole it from the fucking uh the basket case movie. So,
Yeah, but this one is
Belial.
a little. This is one is a little weird. I mean, it's
It's
inside. It was
weirder.
a twin at birth. Yeah, because then it's and that even her twin. It's more psychological, but it's like her twin
Ah,
starts controlling her into doing all these bad things. The
kind of
show,
like Malignant, I guess, because Malignant,
yeah. Then that how that twin, took over and
that's
that
crazy.
parasite. Yeah, it's really weird that the two shows or the show and the movie are similar in that way. So,
That's funny.
but it's a fun show. It's very politically
Insatiable
incorrect.
came out in
So
2018. Didn't Malignant come out in 2020 something? 21?
so Malignant then stole it from that
Or something, or somehow got a similar idea.
or
That's
some
funny.
idea. Yeah, yeah,
I mean, here's the thing. They could have been coming up with that idea since 2018 and stuff, and then COVID hit and they weren't able to make anything, That could have
sure.
been the case. And in which case, the biggest problem with just I feel like maybe the government is stealing ideas or something, like it's if you say something out loud, it gets out there, and they're like, "Hey, we got this idea. Let me give it to this person," And so
Right.
it's a similar idea to something that somebody else is doing because we're just taking your idea, I don't know. So anyway, I always get
Yeah.
worried about saying anything out loud, period. My phones can hear.
Well, all
You
you
can
got to
hear me,
do
can't
is
you?
you know they are because all you got
Yeah.
to do is you look one thing up on Amazon and all of a sudden you're flooded with all this stuff or you
Or you
even
say it
think
out
about
loud. You say, I need toilet paper from Food Lion, and all of a sudden you're flooded with Food Lion, ads on Facebook. I mean, it's they know what they can hear you and they can see you typing, or whatever. So
I went at it. I
scary.
looked at it. Yeah, yeah. So
But I want a girlfriend. Oh, maybe that'll work. I don't know.
But you know what's even scarier?
What?
M3GAN.
Nice segue back. All right.
Thank you.
Which
Thank you.
is Model 3 generative Android. So Model 3 generated Android. What's the N? Android? An? I guess
No.
that's yeah. Model 3 generative Android. So I guess the Meg An AN is Android. That's interesting. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I don't like that. But okay.
you don't like that, so you would want an
No,
N
because it should be M is something, and then E is something, even though or three. G is something, A is
A
something,
and then
and
N is
N is
something.
something. Like nanoprobe or whatever you want to make it, or something like that.
But they did not
A
make it
could
like
be
that.
Android.
I don't know why. But I guess I mean, in the scope of the movie, they just needed something, some kind of a name for her, right? And a name for what it means, right? And
Right.
so she even explains it like, uh, Model 3 generative Android. So the movie is basically about this um poor girl named Katie, who sweet, down to earth, normal girl.
Is she really?
Well,
She's kind
she's
of a bitch
sweet.
in the car right before her parents died.
I don't know. Like she's bitchy because they want to take away her toy from her, and so she was having a fun time with that toy that poops.
Her toy is obnoxious,
Her
and it
toy's
falls on the
obnoxious.
ground, and not like it's gonna die. It's a freaking toy, and she has to undo her seatbelt to go down and get the stupid toy, and the mom is like freaking out, and
Yeah.
then soon after that, they get killed by a snowplow.
Yep.
So it's like when I read. Did you watch the extended one?
I watched the uncut version that's on Peacock. Yeah.
Okay, good.
I don't remember anything different from the theaters, honestly.
I
You
think
know.
it's some of the blood. I looked up something on YouTube that just said like theatrical to Blu-ray or like uncut Blu-ray. It showed the scenes, but it didn't say exactly what it was.
It
So,
seemed
but
normal to me, so I don't know.
yeah, I mean, the one thing I will say about this is with this extended one, I think M3GAN knows everything from the very beginning. I think she's in on everything because I don't remember in the theater, and I could be wrong, in the theatrical version, when Katie's crying when they're trying to sell it all to the investors, I don't remember M3GAN looking at the audience and then looking back. I remember her just walking to Katie.
Right.
And
So
when I
you
saw that, I'm like, oh, she knows exactly what's going on. She's in on all this. She looked at the audience and went, oh shit, this isn't gonna fly. I gotta do something.
and
And
she
that's when she
does. But we'll
yeah.
get to that. We'll get to that. But yeah, no, I agree. I don't remember her doing that in the theater, and but even in the uncut, it didn't, like when I saw it, I didn't think that way. You know what I mean? I didn't think, oh man, this is something new. I just thought, oh, okay. Um, so
Yeah, no, I mean,
I just took everything like, oh shit, this is what I saw in the theater, which probably a few things I did not. But anyway, so well, she becomes sweet, maybe she becomes sweeter. At first she is sort of a raging
no,
bitch.
no, no,
I
no.
like her at the end, and she's protecting her aunt, and she's,
I mean, when she finally realizes what a nightmare M3GAN is, yeah, she changes. But one, I agree with the aunt. I mean, it's like when Katie wants to go in and play with the toys that are on the shelf. Well, we all have collectibles, so it's just like we're not going to let anybody play with those.
Mhm.
And so when the aunt tears it open because of the fucking asshole
Therapist.
woman who comes in, the therapist, who gives her like the eat shit looking eyes. and then she has to go over and rip open a box, which as far as we know, those things are like a couple $100, maybe more. And then when she's trying to explain to her that's not how this thing works, I mean, I'm really surprised the therapist didn't die. But
I was surprised too, honestly. I thought the M3GAN would want to kill the therapist because there is that one scene where she looks over it and she goes, "You made her cry." And I was
that
like,
was not my
"Oh shit,
intention.
that woman's gonna die." She
Yeah,
didn't.
but yet she
Maybe because
did.
they want to bring her back for the sequel. Maybe she'll die in the sequel.
Yeah, she's a horrible person, and it's the whole thing of telling the aunt what to do when Katie's been there for like 2 days. Of course she's going to have to rearrange things. Of course she's going to have to alter her life, but not in 2 days.
Right.
Let
I mean, yeah, she just started, or whatever. So let's get more into there was a car crash. The mom and dad die. Katie is sent to live with her aunt. Her aunt is having problems because they just created or they released this product, this robot that the one that we talked about that eats and then shits things out and stuff, pebbles and stuff, and like, you know, and then somebody else comes along, some other company comes along, and basically makes a knockoff that sells cheaper. So the boss just wants, how do we make this cheaper? Please,
well,
right,
he's
do your
freaking
job.
out.
He's freaking out
Yeah,
because he
yeah, he's freaking
wants,
out, saying that's all I've asked from you is just give me one that's cheaper.
yeah. So just give me the plans. That's it,
Which once
or
again, the
whatever.
boss is correct.
Boss is correct. I didn't have any problem with the boss at all. I mean, in fact, once again, to talk about people who die, I did not think he deserved his death. I think when he was doing all this stuff and getting mad, you know, like, why are you working on this robot right now when you need to be doing your job? You know what I mean? Like everything he says did not, he didn't seem like an asshole, you know?
No, and they're not. They're like a third person party type of thing. They're
Right.
like independent contractors. So
Exactly.
yeah, which is why one of the assistants says, he could just fire us.
Right.
He could
And
just stop
and
our
all, I'm
contract.
surprised he almost did. He probably would have if M3GAN hadn't worked that second time, you know? Like he would have been like, you know what, you guys wasting my time way too much, not doing anything, you're fired, you know? But unfortunately, I mean fortunately or unfortunately, however you want to call it, did work. So Katie goes to live with her aunt. As you said, her aunt has collectibles. She's a toy, maker, which you would think would be a wonderful thing. I did love the scene where she's like, "Are you going to read me a story?" And she has to like look it up, and then it's like updating. And I'm like,
Yeah, she
"This
has to
is the
download the
future
app.
of fucking
Well, because
reading
she
stories to children."
well, yeah,
Like,
because she's all electronic. She's
yeah,
like an engineer. I
yeah,
mean,
she's all
that's
digital,
everything in her
you know.
house. Yeah, it's all digital. It's all
Yeah.
electronic. It's
I love
you
I
know,
love that. Like that's cool. But it's
yeah. I
just
mean,
funny
she
because that is
creates.
probably the future of how we read to our children and everything. We're not going to read by books. We're going to read via iPads or whatever.
Well,
And which,
and I thought with I don't know, maybe I'm heartless or something, but when Katie goes, mom normally reads me a bedtime story. It's like, well, your mother's not here.
but
I
she's not
I guess.
used to being in a new environment, in a new place, and she
Well, then
wants
I guess
something.
you shouldn't
She
have been
she
an
wants
idiot in the
something
car.
stable that's, like that. Did not. I did not find her like. I didn't find her to be obnoxious when she's asking for a freaking bedtime story. Now, if she were like screaming at her, like, my mom reads me a bedtime story, you're not taking her, right? Or something, I would have been like, what a brat. But she just said that. The woman, at any time, the aunt could have said, oh, I'm sorry, I'm too busy, but, maybe later or something I'll be able, you know what I mean? Like, and I think she would have been sort of sad, but she's trying to make it work with her, niece and everything. So I totally, I
No,
totally get
I get that, and it's what she's used to and everything. And her parents just died, so you might as well go along with it. But
right.
at the same time, it's not like she's really asking for the story to be told. She's just like, yeah, but that's what my mom does, shouldn't you?
Right, shouldn't you? I mean, why not? You're now the new mom.
Be, because
No, you're the aunt, you're the new
as the
mom.
aunt points out later on, she's not her daughter,
Right.
or that's not her daughter.
Anyway,
So yeah, it's I don't know. There's a reason why I'm 55 and never had kids. So
you're like, after this movie, I definitely don't want any. But yeah, so she goes and you know, um, she does the thing. Then we meet the therapist later, who just shows up to the house. I guess either she told her she was like maybe there was an appointment and she just forgot or something. But the therapist
wait,
comes in,
an
makes her
appointment
open
she
up the
forgot?
fucking toy, which I was annoyed by because I'm like, the woman just said those are like collectibles, like let's not touch them, kind of thing. Like, and even though she's like, that's fine, we can open this up, right? She should have stood her ground and said no, but I think she was afraid if she like annoyed this woman or said something wrong that she would have Katie taken away from her, because this
Yeah,
woman
as we
kind of has
find
her
out,
what?
yeah, the Florida, the dad who's in Florida, or
Yeah,
no, 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 the brother who's in Florida or something,
I
brother or
thought it was
sister.
like the father of the father, you know. I thought it was like the father and mother of her father, of Katie's father.
Well, whoever I thought it was
Yeah.
like the uncle or something, but whatever
Yeah.
it is, it's relatives in Florida,
Yeah,
and
relatives in
nobody should
Florida.
live in Florida. I can tell you that nobody should live in Florida. That place
Where
is
do
a,
they live right now? Is it California?
yeah, I think it's supposed to be California.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would imagine it would either be California or New York, and I was pretty sure it was New York. Um, but it can't be well, unless it's Northern California, because they went to go skiing and shit or something, and they had all the
Well,
snow
the
and
mom
everything.
and dad were probably not California, but Katie got sent to the aunt
Oh,
who's in California.
right, right. But where was she? Where were they originally? I wonder.
What,
Um,
the parents?
yeah.
I don't know.
Uh,
I
anyway,
don't really think that's, yeah, I have no idea.
so
And plus, people can go, skiing and not live in the area.
yeah. So she goes and she ends up was it the therapist makes her do is like just basically pass a ball to each other, which I thought the ball had I would have loved to see what the ball did, when she was like, that's not what the
I, I
use is.
I think it's like a Rubik's cube, but it's a ball, and like you pull it apart and you kind of move it like this.
See, that
Kind
would
of
have
looks
been
like the
more cool to for her to do is to like teach the
yeah.
you
Instead
know
of treating Katie like she's an idiot and just roll the ball back and forth.
Yeah, she would have been like, look, because that's a something that like a mother sort of would, you know what I mean? Like a mother figure would do is like, let me teach you. She was actually acting like a mother. She was like, I want to teach you what this ball is, and whatnot.
Yeah,
And
she said that that's not what it's made
yeah,
for. Let
it's
me
not what
and
it's made
then
for. But
yeah, then the therapist just like stares at her just like with like a death glare,
uh,
and and it's just
so
you know
then they walk out, and that's when they talk about the relatives in Florida, and then and whatnot, which she was pretty pissed, like, like. So they contacted you kind of thing. So she's like, you got to basically get your shit together or, she's being shipped out kind of thing. So, the, so not only that,
which is unfair because
which
her
is
shit is
unfair.
together.
Yeah, her shit is together. She, like, all of a sudden she gets this extra thing, thrown in her way. And granted, it is a child, and that is not, I mean, sometimes things aren't expected, and you gotta make way. Even at one point she's on the phone with her coworkers and she's just trying to figure out the pet stuff, the crazy pets or whatever toys and how to make it cheaper and stuff. And the coworkers are like, or one coworker, the female coworker's like, you just literally, had your sister die and now you have a child you're taking care of. Shouldn't that be more of your priority right now? Which, you know what I mean? Like, I guess I can see both ways of like, if you don't do your job, you're going to get fired,
Right.
and you won't be able to support the kid, you know? So she had to do sort of both of like working her normal job and being a mother to Katie in a way, like foster mother or whatever you want to call it to Katie. And then she tells Katie she'll be back. She needs to work on some stuff, but right? And she's just in the other room, you know? And when Katie comes to explore, she shows her everything, like what the new toy is, how we can make it cheaper, that kind of thing. And which is good because now she's got a child's perspective of like what is cool, like
Well,
would that work?
which to Katie is boring.
Yeah,
She
that's
kind
true.
of yawned at it, and then
Yeah.
that's when the aunt goes, come here, I want to show you something." And then we get the big ass robot.
Yeah. Fucking awesome robot. What was his name? Damn it.
I don't
Uh,
remember. But while you look it up, so Katie loves it. She thinks it's weird without a face, so they put some goggles on it. And
mm-hmm.
then the aunt puts on these gloves that operate it, like wirelessly. And she does like the high five and she does the shake. And and Katie all of a sudden is laughing. She's enjoying it. And then she says, "If I had a toy like this, I would never need another toy again." And that's when the aunt goes, "Aha." And she goes back to creating M3GAN.
Bruce is the original.
Bruce. Okay.
I wonder if that stood for anything. I'm guessing not. I'm guessing she
I don't
just
think so. No, I
named
think
him.
it's just probably gore and just some shots here and there, probably.
Yeah.
So,
So
um,
yeah, so Bruce,
does
who
it?
you go like this, like uh John, you go like this, and that's how you turn it on and
Yeah, yeah.
everything.
She's the gloves. I'm seeing if there's a running. So it says here theatrical running time is 1 hour 42 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Unrated is 1 hour and 42 minutes. So it literally must be just like frames, like a little bit of more blood here, maybe her looking through the window, like that two-way
Why is that
mirror.
unrated?
So unrated is simply just footage put back in. It doesn't make it blood or anything. A lot of people think that if it's unrated, that means, oh, it must be gory. No, it just means that
It
they
just
put in
means
a
that they didn't take the time to get it rated again, you
well,
know.
it's I wouldn't say it's just foot any type of footage that they put back in. It doesn't have
Right.
to be gory. It doesn't have to be nudity. It doesn't have to be any of that. It could be the Auntie Katie going to the supermarket. And for the theatrical version, it doesn't serve a purpose. But for Blu-ray, they've decided to put it
I
back in.
thought that would be a director's cut. Like, when the director or producer or something tells them, like, let's put this back in there, or
That's if the director wanted it back in. But I think
yeah.
you could call it anything. I mean, the director. This might have been the original version that's screened, and just
Right.
the studio said cut it down because we need to get more showtimes.
Right.
And so they just said, well, let's just release it on Blu-ray. So,
There you go.
but and then that's when Katie meets M3GAN is right after that.
So, all right. So to go back, so Bruce, all that stuff. So basically showing the face and doing all the work on that helps her figure out M3GAN. She goes to go work on M3GAN some more. She makes M3GAN as best as she can, right? Because no, because this is the second time. The first time we forgot to mention that.
No, because remember, yeah, they try M3GAN once with the boss there, and it kind of burns up and
Yeah, it
everything. But
burns up.
this M3GAN, the M3GAN 2, I guess, in a way, at the end when she's confronting the aunt, tells her all the stuff that she skipped.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, because M3GAN isn't supposed to. She is supposed to learn, but not like that.
right.
Like a lot of protocols she mentions were left out.
Yeah, that's
So it's
true.
not as best as she can. She did a good job, but not the best.
And the funniest thing is she like, even M3GAN mentions later at the end of the movie that basically you don't even know the stuff that you put in me. Yeah, that made me actually learn all this stuff, basically and it goes back to that thing of like you're playing with stuff you don't know, you shouldn't do that,
Well,
kind of
it's
thing. You should,
Frankenstein. It's all
yeah,
Frankenstein.
it's,
She's Dr. Frankenstein and M3GAN is the monster.
yeah, it's good. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so anyway, so the monster gets made and, and but at first she pairs with, Katie, and that, for anybody who doesn't understand, that means she's her primary, whatever, primary
Primary user, I believe.
user and stuff, meaning that, uh, if Katie wants to shut her off or something, she's only one who can do that. That's why. Well, there was that, and then so they make her the secondary user later, but at first they didn't do that, and they didn't put
The ant thing.
the
Yeah.
ant, and the ant didn't actually put in any of the extra protocol or whatever. A lot of other things like didn't put parental locks, and things, because you know why? Because this was a rush job, and this is what happens when you rush something, you know. Oh, did Lee Winnell write this? Because he might have learned from the.
Lee did not write this. So
I know, but I'm just joking because death. Was it Dead Silence? Was a rush job in my opinion. Didn't really. They
well,
didn't.
but speaking of protocols, and I mentioned this to you before, these are the same movie.
Pretty much.
I mean, everything in these is the same. There's not much of a difference. If you compare the stories side by side, they're
Hmm.
almost identical.
Yep.
I mean, it's weird of how close these are, except I buy this one more than this. Like I would believe M3GAN could control stuff in the house, all that type of stuff. I don't believe that this Tommy or whatever his name is in this can do
Yeah.
that.
Fucking. Because they couldn't
This
use
is a much
Chucky, I
better
guess.
movie.
They couldn't use
But
Chucky because of the other Chucky.
yeah, but it really is the same
Uh,
movie. It's really bizarre how close these match.
I know we're not talking about Child's Play remake, but I will say the best thing about that movie is that it's not just a regular doll that comes to life like the original movie. It is a robotic doll,
It's
which is more
it's
of like,
M3GAN.
right, but it's more like what would happen today of the idea of a robotic doll coming to life, and stuff. But it's not a good movie. M3GAN is a much better movie.
It
Um,
is, but it's all these like she didn't get the right protocols, and then you had like the Asian guy who removes the parental or just basically removes like the do not kill switch and
yeah, which was
I
funny in The Simpsons, but is not funny
yeah,
in
but they did
Child's
with
Play.
Krusty. Yeah.
Yeah, it was the same thing. It was the same idea. They stole that from The Simpsons, where
Well, and
evil, good, evil, and they literally have an evil and good
yes,
switch. And I'm
on his
like,
back.
in the movie, in Child's Play, and I'm like, why the fuck would you like? Why?
Why is the doll? Why do any of these dolls have the good evil switch?
Right,
What would be the point of that? M3GAN, you understand because she's learning shit along the way,
right,
and but with this, because it's similar. It's M3GAN kills a dog. I think his name is Tommy. Tommy kills a cat.
right.
The kid is they just moved to like the area or whatever in Child's Play, and he doesn't have any friends, so the mom gets him the doll. And this
And it's a
one,
single mother, you know,
single mom, and now this one, the parents die, so the aunt give and it's
a
kid
single
is
aunt.
yeah. I mean, and then she gives her the doll, and it's they're God, are they close?
Yeah.
They
Uh,
are very close.
So another thing I thought about when I was watching this movie is how uh it reminded me a little bit of Age of Ultron, you know, where have you seen Age of Ultron, the Avengers?
Yeah, but I don't remember anything from it. Not
Well, Age of Ultron was a computer that was supposed to be like the ultimate AI, and smartest, thing. and it starts like uploading all the information from like the internet and everything and getting all the information, period. And then it says, basically it goes, well, you know what? The biggest problem with this world is the is people, you know. People cause the most harm to this world. I must destroy every human possible
I agree with that.
because,
I
right?
agree.
Right. So, if I destroy all human, then this world will be saved. The world will be saved because nobody will fuck it up. And which, I mean, as much as you'd want to agree, I'm sure you wouldn't want an AI coming over and killing you, but you know,
I was hoping that COVID would do that. So, that it would basically be like the stand or something, that it's because remember with COVID, all when we were on that lockdown, I mean, we could not leave. Vegetation came back, all the sea life started popping back up again and getting a little close to the shore. Like they found like whole things of dolphins and whales. Like everything became better for the planet when there were no people. Once people came back in, it got all screwed up again.
hmm.
I agree with Thamos. I agree with Voltron. I agree with all that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. I agree with the stand. I agree with all that shit. Yeah.
So in Megan starts learning that the things that harm Katie are more like are humans, mostly. The dog bit her and bit Katie, or whatever. So I
I disagree with that, by the way. I completely disagree with that because when after the whole thing with Megan at the factory or lab or whatever you want to call it, Katie, the aunt, and Megan come home, and we see the next door neighbor, of course, using all the pesticides, which sucks. So I understand the aunt getting mad at that. But there's that big hole in the fence. Come on, one of you guys just nail a fucking piece of wood up to it.
all right.
That's all you got to do is just, it doesn't matter who made the hole, just nail just go to Home Depot, buy a board, and just nail it to the fence. You
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't have this problem with the dog.
Right.
And
And
so, and if, and when the dog does bite Megan's grabbing an arrow. Then Katie puts her hand through. The dog's protecting its property. The
right.
dog's doing exactly what the dog is supposed to do.
So yeah, I don't agree. I don't like any animals getting hurt. We watched a movie for Indie Film Cafe. I can't say what it is yet, but we watched a movie today that the whole time me and Joe Turek are watching it going, "Oh my God, I hope the dog is okay. Oh my God, I hope the dog is okay," throughout the whole movie. And it was just like anxious stuff. And thankfully in that movie the dog lived, all the way to the end. But even through all up to the end, we're like, oh my God, like just don't let anything happen to that dog. And I kind of, even though the dog was, you know, um, you know, biting people, didn't even seem like it even punctured the child hard, or
Well,
whatever.
it been into she should have had a rabies shot. They
Yeah,
should have taken her to the hospital, but the aunt, or yeah, the aunt didn't. She just, I guess,
should just call the
vaccine and
police on
and a
the,
band-aid.
you know.
Yeah, and saying that there's nothing. The police saying there's nothing that we can do. Just fix the hole.
That's what he said, yeah, and you should have done that to begin with.
I
So of
mean, I don't
course,
understand. I don't see. That's where I don't like. I didn't like seeing the dog get hurt because to me the dog was just being a dog.
right.
But of course, in Megan's eyes, it's a threat, and it hurt Katie, so it has to
And
die.
right, and it has to go, and
And even
then
the neighbor, I didn't think was horrible. I mean, she's using the pesticides, and yeah, that's obnoxious. But it's she didn't seem like because she even goes like, "Oh, hi, who's that?" She goes, "Well, that's my niece." Oh, is she staying for? Never mind, never mind. Go away. The neighbor was just trying to be friendly. She didn't
Allison
seem like a bad person.
Allison Williams from Girls and Get Out and all that stuff is the aunt, And I just think it's she is sort of more obnoxious to the neighbor than she needs to be. because I mean the neighbor who I thought like looked like a looked like, because there's a movie I watched on Tubi that had Melissa McCarthy as a neighbor and everything, and I was like, oh my God, it's that role. It's that obnoxious neighbor who won't leave you alone kind of thing. And she's not being that obnoxious. Yeah, sure, she's using the pesticides. Sure, her dog is getting free, which, you know, she should, honestly, she should keep the dog in the house, not chained up
Well,
to a
or if the dog
fence.
is outside, it could be just chained by by the dog house. Just if he's outside
Yeah.
during the day, give him a chain to roam around and have fun, and then at night bring him inside. But even the cop, I think it was the cop agreed with the next door neighbor, because the neighbor said, "But the dog wasn't on your property. You were on my property."
Hmm.
So once again, the dog is just defending itself. But of course, Megan looks at all these people like the neighbor as a threat,
Yeah. And
and the
so,
pesticides and all that. So
yep, all this stuff. So thinks that the neighbor's well, I don't know why the neighbor's a threat. Well, neighbor's a threat because she felt like she was gonna figure out the dog's situation and stuff, I guess. That would be my only guess because the neighbor isn't actually threatening Katie at all, like, or anything, like
well,
not
she gets
attacking.
worse and worse, because remember, there's two times with the cop. One was when she's standing down the driveway and she's yelling, and the cop's like, "Ma'am, we told you to stay we told you to stay on your property." And then
Right.
there was also where she hits on the window.
So yeah. So anyway, the neighbor, the dog, both are taken care of, and whatnot. And the dog is 6 feet under somewhere, and I feel like that was terrible. But at least she buried him.
Which we know
You
it
know,
isn't. I don't think the dog was buried. I think she just ripped it in half or choked it and just probably left it dead. That
where?
was probably just anywhere, probably somewhere around the house. I don't think she buried it. I don't think Megan would get a shovel and
Yeah, I
dig
don't know
six
if
feet
Megan
down.
could have
I think she's just
just
using it to piss her off.
yeah. Um. So anyway, the dog and the lady are gone. We forgot to mention the fucking. So at one point, I guess the she has to go to a school, and so there's like a school that's sort of outdoor
Hippie.
stuff
It's
or
a hippie
whatever.
school.
I know, it's so ridiculous. And so they wanted to like teach all the kids, and there's one obnoxious I don't know how old he was. He was way too
I
old, like 13 or something. Should
No,
not have
she
been
said
there.
that he went through I think his age is correct, but she said he went through a growth spurt.
Well, dude, they had like a mustache or something, if I remember correctly.
So and
Like,
and so now he's just like a big bully, and this camp is ridiculous. I've seen these type of camps before where they're all hippy dippy, and it's all about feelings, and it's all about it's not like you're really going to learn anything. I mean, like
hmm,
going out and picking, I forget exactly what it is, but acorns or whatever that they were picking
picking.
up, chestnuts or something. And those schools are very annoying. They're very obnoxious. And Katie was homeschooled, we find out, which is, I'd like to know a little bit more. Like, why is Katie homeschooled? Like, is there something about her that we don't know that needs homeschooling?
Or maybe she just doesn't fit in with the kids or something, like, or whatever when she was in school. Or maybe her mom just liked to teach her the stuff. Some parents these days want to homeschool their children instead of put them in the public schooling system because they don't feel like the children actually get any education these days.
Yeah, but
Um,
when you're homeschooled, you only get the point of view of the parents. So
well,
it's
right,
bad on
or
both
the
sides.
parents usually
So
buy like, uh teaching stuff, right? So like syllabuses or whatever that other schools are going to have.
history
So I
books
mean,
that
you're going
say
to
that
get
we
that.
didn't enslave black people, history books that say that we didn't put Japanese people into internment camps.
Well,
I mean,
I'm not going to lie.
that's
I'm not liking that some public schools are taking history out and rewriting history in a way. Some schools are doing that.
What
Um,
schools?
Public schools.
I've not heard of this at all.
Yeah, I've heard about it.
And if you're talking about, the critical race theory, schools don't teach that.
Right. I'm talking about like Civil War and other information that
I
people
haven't
don't
heard of
want them to learn because anyway, there's just a lot
that.
of
That's like Ron DeSantis in Florida, where they actually banned history books
oof,
because they don't want people to know about slavery and all that type of stuff. But
ew, I don't like that.
regardless, but it's so it's more of a conservative thing. But I found it interesting that Katie was supposed to be homeschooled, which is probably why the aunt's like, oh look, I found this hippy dippy place for you to go.
All right.
But I
So
gotta
she
tell you, man, that kid, I am glad got hit by that car.
he would have grew up to be like a terrible human being.
That's what Megan says.
Yep.
Bad boys grow up to be bad men, and you could tell from the way that he was treating people and how the other kids didn't want to be friends with him, that yeah, this guy would probably grow up and become a serial killer.
Or a
Probably a
criminal,
lot of
just
yeah,
criminal, period.
criminal, date raper, all that type of shit. So sometimes, and I think Katie, I'm not Katie, I think Megan even pointed out that sometimes people just need to die.
Well, and that goes back to the Age of Ultron and stuff. Like, do people like the people that, are kind of harming the planet, harming the world, do they deserve to die? You know? And the problem is we as humans can't judge that, you know? Like, um, I know a girl who is the daughter of a friend of mine, and I asked her what she was going to do, what she wanted to do because she just went to college, right? She just was going to college, and I asked her what she wanted to study, and she actually wants to study what makes people basically what different ways from the different style like lifestyles and different things, or what makes people turn into like killers and stuff, right? So that she can help, stop stuff like this from happening because of
I
broken
I don't think
homes and other
that's
things like
possible.
that,
I
you
don't think
know.
I think that's impossible. I mean,
Well,
it's
I mean,
Ted Bundy was from a very good home.
right. That doesn't
You
necessarily
know,
mean anything.
Dahmer
That
wasn't from a bad home
but
either.
then there are people from bad homes that do end up going and committing these things, and if they can be stopped before that, that's awesome.
I mean, I think it's good to study these things because they did study, you know, uh, Jeffrey Dahmer and stuff like that. They but it's well, speaking of like, do they deserve to die type of thing, it reminded me of Robot Chicken. I think it was called like something like the day in the life of a stormtrooper. And it showed the stormtrooper getting up with his family, and he's eating breakfast and he's drinking coffee, and then he goes to work on the Death Star, and then all of a sudden it like blows up, and it's like, but wait, the stormtrooper had a family, the stormtrooper had kids, he was just doing a job, it was just like a 9 to 5, and the thing blew up. So did the stormtrooper deserve to blow up?
Well, that's almost like Clerk's discussion when,
Oh yeah.
when he's like the normal people on the Death Star that were just working on the uncompleted Death Star, did they deserve to be blown up? Because they were just normal people. They didn't know, you know, um, do you think a stormtrooper knows how to install a toilet main? They just know killing in white uniforms. And yeah, you know, but then again, I know you're not a big fan of the Disney stuff, but I did like John Boyega. I think that's how you say his name. But the Finn, I think, was his character name,
Yeah.
as the stormtrooper who sort of has a conscience. Is like, I don't want to do this, like, and I thought that
I
was kind
I
of a cool idea. I don't
I
know.
didn't mind that until they did nothing with it. They just
Right.
completely
I'll agree with
threw
that. I'll agree that
him and
they
the
they could have
character.
done some cool stuff with it, and made him
Well, and now we're really getting off topic, but it's, I mean, just everybody was amazed at a black stormtrooper. What is that? What does that mean? I mean, we now know them as clones. or
So
is
there was a,
everybody now that way? So it's so they could have done something interesting, but they chose not to.
I feel like yeah, so yeah, that's a whole nother discussion. Well, maybe we'll do another Star Wars discussion sometime, for one of our shows, and stuff.
Well,
Have a
now
big
that Ray is coming back in her own trilogy,
Oh, John Boyega's coming back too, and I heard
yeah, because
he
he needs work.
well, right, but he also, I heard, had issues with them before. Now I guess all of it's resolved or something, and everything. I
I have not
Yeah,
watched any of them.
I think it's literally your issue, your thing of like he just wants to, he's not getting the work that Adam Driver's getting, or
No.
whatever. But I'm not gonna lie, like I like him. I like him in the movies. He's really funny. He's got some great stuff. He's not Adam Driver. Adam Driver's a better actor, in my opinion. But hopefully maybe more work will come with him.
Hmm.
But to go back to M3GAN, the movie we're supposed to be talking about here, we get like
I do
sidetracked.
like the bully. I do like the mom, who's trying to work her way through this whole thing, and their son just tells her to go fuck off.
Go fuck off, Susan,
Yeah, it
or
just
whatever.
doesn't even call her mom. Just yeah,
Yeah,
sister.
fuck off, Susan. And later, he's like fucking around with M3GAN. He's like, "You're a doll." I thought he was gonna rape her. Oh
I
my
gotta be
God.
honest. When he took her shoe off the first time I saw it, I
Uh-huh.
really thought that he was going to do some sick stuff with her because I bet there are perverts out there that wish that M3GAN was a real thing,
Ew.
even as like a like a stuffed animal type of thing, like a collector's item, not like a robot or anything, but just to have like like a
Mm,
Chucky doll, you'd have like a M3GAN doll, and I bet that there are guys out there that did that because I mean I thought that I'm like, oh God, is this guy going to do something awful?
hmm. But he
And he
doesn't.
didn't. He just screwed with her. So
Yeah, he screwed with her, not screwed her.
yes,
Um, but
I'm not even sure that's possible with her, but you know,
well, yeah, I'd hope not. Um, I'd hope
does
they wouldn't
M3GAN
make her like,
age? Because she says that she'll be with her basically like until Katie dies. So would M3GAN age?
probably
Like
not.
if they're roughly the same age now, could M3GAN then become 20 years old?
Well, if
I
she
mean,
were a toy, she might break someday, or whatever, like toys don't last forever generally, you know.
no, but she could be
Um,
programmed like a computer. Like as
yeah.
Katie ages, she could age too. So if Katie's 50, then M3GAN could be 50.
I
But
don't know if I'd want a
she would still look
50-year-old.
like M3GAN though.
Yeah, that'd be weird. That'd be like
No, you could give her a new face.
you could, but that'd be
Like
weird.
she'd be like a wrinkled kind of old M3GAN face.
I wonder what they're gonna do with this sequel, but kind of because I mean, obviously, M3GAN 2.0 means there's gonna be a new M3GAN. Um,
Well, they're I was thinking about that. They could go a few ways. One is just remake the first film. It's just the same movie over again.
hmm,
Two, they could introduce a male version of M3GAN,
Chucky,
something like that. Yeah.
Tommy, whatever
Um,
his name is.
Tommy. Yeah. Three, it could be military that all of a sudden, because the guy, the boss, his assistant, who's constantly tortured and made fun of, did steal the plans.
Right, and send it to somebody.
Yeah, he put it into a folder.
Right.
So, but I'm gonna guess that they in a sequel they could say between the folder and the assistant dying
It
that he
did.
sent it to Hasbro or something.
How did M3GAN know that? Like, how did M3GAN? Because I mean, I guess you could say like somehow on the internet she found the guy's, you know, email
Because
address or
she's
something.
linked to all of it. She's linked to everything. She's linked to his laptop. She's linked to the phone because remember she talked to the aunt as the assistant.
You know what's even scarier is the fact that they should have leaned in to the really scary aspect of that. She knows everything, you know? Because they really didn't lean in as much as they could have with that. Like you said they have that scene where she turns and looks, right, at the audience, when she realizes, and that was one of the best scenes in the movie. It was like because it could have gone really bad, with Katie crying. But then she looks over and then she's like, okay, this is not going the way it needs to go so that I can become, like I think she wants more Megans, basically army of Megans out there. And I think maybe that might be where they go with 2.0. So it becomes a
That was going to be the
somehow,
next thing I was going to say is mini Megans. Yeah.
yeah. So like there's so many of them and they're out there and causing problems, in the world. And the only person who can stop them is, Allison Williams, and Katie, because I don't think this is rumored, but I think they are coming back, for the sequel, for the next one. So,
That's good.
um, but anyway, so they have that really great scene with Katie crying and her coming in and basically, and she finds out about death, so she knows about how to cheer her up, you know.
She sings the song, she does the recording, the good
Yeah, the
memory of her
recording.
mom, or
The
at least a funny memory.
Yeah, which I didn't really find that funny, but all right, you know.
But see that's where I go back to when Katie said that. I'm like, but that's not funny. You find that funny? Like, oh, the Katie's not a nice person.
Yeah. So there you go. And then later,
Oh, I have this great memory of my mom. She had hairspray, and somebody got close to her with a lighter, and her head caught on fire. And oh my god, I thought it was so funny.
that's
Katie,
my
you
greatest
now have
memory of
that
my
memory
mom.
forever.
But anyway,
Now you'll always have, when you're 60 years old, you can hear about your mom's head catching on fire.
yeah. So she goes and she says that, and then she says basically your mom and then she sings the song to her, and all the people like they are crying, right?
Yeah.
Because it's
And
such a
that's
sweet life
when
scene.
the owner, the boss, knows he has them, because
Yeah, because
he
because
starts to
then that's
smile.
what who was the one who came up with that idea? Because it was either the boss or Allison's character. What is keep
Well,
calling her out.
the aunt most likely was just going to replicate what she did originally.
Right.
Was is just put Katie in a room, with Megan, and just let them draw and do that type of stuff. But it took that turn
Well,
because,
no,
of
because
course, the aunt manipulates Katie, because Katie's feeling sick because she probably has freaking rabies, and the aunt's like, well, you don't have to do the presentation, but just remember, a lot of people did fly in cross country.
I
You
don't think
know,
she did that. But she did say,
oh, that's she
"I'm sorry, I
manipulated her.
forced you to do this," sort
She
of thing.
manipulated her totally,
Yeah, yeah,
totally manipulated her into that. So nobody's really good in this. Nobody's
yeah.
really a good
Well,
person,
I'm
except
thinking
for
like who,
Megan,
because
maybe.
somebody mentions to, I think it was the boss, right? Is like, if we get the big boss down here, and he has a kid, that's, Katie's age. If we get if we kind of show how this is emotionally, we'll get him invested, we'll get him hooked, And so I think that was kind of cool. Like, once again, the boss is such a good boss, like he's not an asshole, you know.
He
He
is, but he isn't at the same time. Like, I understand why he's yelling at the one woman about the empty chairs, and saying this doesn't look like it's going to hold like 1,000 people. It looks like it's going
Right.
to hold like 200 people or
And
something.
she even says something like, I could get like 15 people down here. She's like, what are you talking about? I need everything filled, like he's upset.
Yeah.
He is sort of a dick uh to the assistant, but like I'm sorry. Here's the thing. If you're an assistant, and I've learned this through listening to people talk about like being an assistant for like showrunners and stuff, you don't pitch ideas to to anyone. First of all, they don't want to hear it, like they don't that's not, and secondly, that's not your job. Your job is to get them fucking coffee or whatever the fuck they want you to do. That is your job. You do your job, you shut your mouth, and then you can move up, you know?
Well,
eventually.
swimming with sharks. Remember the beginning of the movie, we see, Benicio del Toro is behind the desk, and Kevin Spacey's like, "Oh yeah, you're here because he got a job at I forget Warner Brothers,"
Hmm.
and that's because del Toro did what Spacey told him to do. Spacey might have taken some of his ideas to get credit, but that eventually moved him up the ladder.
Hmm.
And that's where uh, Frank Whaley made his huge mistake, is when he gave the idea to Kevin Spacey, and then he heard Spacey talking to his bosses about it, and Spacey does the thumbs up. If he would have just shut up, he would have moved up the ladder.
Hmm.
If Spacey went up a level, he probably would have gone up a level.
Right.
And that's the thing. Just like you were saying, you don't do that. If you're Spacey's assistant, you just shut up
Hmm.
and you bring him his coffee.
And so he had so mad at the guy because he's treating him like crap, not listening to his ideas. So blah, 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 blah. I'm gonna go and sell these ideas off to whoever, like another company or something, steal the ideas. And I'm like, that dude deserves to die. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I did not feel
Because he's a
sorry for that guy,
snowflake.
you know?
He's a snowflake who thinks he probably deserves everything, and
Right.
for not doing any work.
There, the part that did make me laugh is when he's like, I thought you guys did a pretty good job or whatever, right? And they just kind of look at him like,
Yeah.
why are you talking to us? Like,
Well, the
because
aunt
like,
doesn't even like him. She even
right.
makes a snide comment to him. I know
Yeah,
who that is. And
right. And he's, yeah, so the assistant is sort of a dick and kind of deserves it when he does die. That scene with the boss, and boss sees Megan, is like, hey Megan, and Megan starts dancing like crazy, and then he's like, what the hell is going on? And then she pulls the uh was it the
it's the paper cutter blade.
paper cutter blade and
Yeah.
comes after him and everything. He starts
I
running.
I
I
know
just love
people
that scene.
thought the dance was stupid. I didn't mind the dance at all.
Hey,
I
the
thought that
dance is
was
right behind me, so
yeah.
I
She learns the dance from Katie at the beginning because she's teaching her how to dance. I guess that's what little kids do. And then later on, she uses it again. So it's not like it wasn't used. It's like there was they showed her learning the dance for a reason, which was to do it later when she
hmm
kills the boss. And I did
exactly.
not mind the dance because it doesn't go on for that long. It's only like 20 seconds or something, 30.
Maybe even less. Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
it's pretty
I mean,
quick.
yeah. And I think it's to distract the boss. Because
Hmm.
once again, Megan knows what's going on. So it's probably to distract the boss, like you said, like him going, what the hell? And then once she gets the blade,
Yeah,
he
she was
freaks out.
basically doing cartwheels or whatever, gets the blade, and then he's like, "Oh shit," you know,
Yeah.
because at first he doesn't think she's like gonna attack him. He just thinks she's just dancing, like what, right? And so the guy does kill. She kills the boss, and then the guy says something, like basically, "I'm a good person," or whatever. I
Oh, the
don't.
the assistant.
The assistant is like, I'm a good person, I don't deserve to die. And then she tells him everything he does. Like, do you think that person deserves to die or deserves to live? And he's like, yeah, like, or whatever. And she like kills him,
It cuts
and
his throat with the blade. Yeah.
yeah, because his
Because
throat.
she's going to frame the boss's murder on him.
Yep. And that
So,
was,
which would be understandable with the way he's treated, and the way
yep.
that he
And
responds to
and that,
stuff.
yeah, and the boss, and then he couldn't take it, so he kills himself. I mean, whatever, works, I guess.
Well, a lot of
Uh,
people do that. They go on the rampage and then they shoot themselves in the head.
So another thing I really liked was toward the end where she is right before that happens. She's there with the two coworkers or whatever, and she's online. She's on, like, she's connected to everything. They don't know it, They think she's just turned off, I guess, right? And so she's
Which is very
connecting.
Frankenstein with her up there, like she's like in the many different versions of Frankenstein, they always have the different ways that the monster is propped up. And
Right.
that's another version of that.
There you go.
Well,
And,
and I'm sorry, but then we should go back for just 1 second, because what it is that, and the therapist is correct about this, I will agree, which is that M3GAN becomes a drug, and
mhm,
that Katie cannot live without M3GAN. And the therapist is like, well, what happens down the road?
right.
And she's 100% correct about that. And of course, the aunt doesn't
Well,
look at that. She just looks
well,
at
no,
the
she doesn't
now.
at first, but she actually starts agreeing with the therapist, in a way. If you
Well,
notice,
as everything starts unraveling,
right,
yeah, then it's like, oh shit. But her as a businesswoman
right,
is thinking about the now. She's
yeah.
not thinking about, okay, well, what if this doll breaks in 10 years? And the kid's like a junkie.
And the other thing is, the other thing that they were making a big deal about was the fact that, um, and they even more than one person brings this up to her, which is, so you're basically having this doll become her parent, you
That
know?
was the female assistant to
Yeah.
the ads. Yeah.
Yeah, you're basically having her become a parent, and you're not parenting and everything. That becomes very clear when the aunt tries to say, do this, do that, and she's like, "No, I'm not going to listen to you. I'm going to listen to M3GAN." And because M3GAN's been the only person telling her to flush the toilet or do any of the work.
Oh, how gross is that? That's because that can't just be pee in there. That's got to be like
Right.
number two. There's got to
Yeah.
be a dookie in there for her to go, ew, gross, Katie. And
Katie,
then M3GAN even gets annoyed with her.
yeah, yeah, M3GAN's like, because you're not learning to fucking, flush the toilet, wash your hands, do these
Gross,
things that,
girl.
you know.
She's a
So,
little gross girl. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
But anyway, but like, so so M3GAN's teaching her to do all these things. M3GAN's being there for her. M3GAN's helping her get through all these things. And it started making me think, like, really, and like, when I was young, when I was a kid, I always thought it'd be cool to have a robot like maid or something like Rosie from Jetsons,
Yeah.
just somebody who's there all the time, could just clean and was free, and everything. But the more that I think about it, I don't want a robot in my, like, this movie scares me into thinking, like, if they made a Amazon Rosie, you know, because they've already made an Amazon Astro, it's basically a um pet robot, or whatever. And it's not even a dog, it's like just something that just goes on the floor and just moves around. But if they created a Amazon Rosie, I'd be more afraid of it, because like after a while, it might, be like, you know what? Like I would love to do, if I could afford to, I would do a parody skit where the person's like somebody's sleeping, and then the robot, like, they wake up for a second, they see the robot just staring down at them. That'd be terrifying. Wouldn't you be like scared if you just
Well, you
woke
you
up
would
and you
you would
saw
end
the
up
robot?
getting the Terminator. You
Yeah.
you would have all these M3GANs that are much more intelligent than humans
Skynet,
are, and
man.
yeah, and probably start killing everybody. But also remember, to go back to like your the kind of like the surrogate mother type of thing, is people already do that with their maids.
Yep.
Rich people who have their kids stay at home and go to school while they're off skiing, the maid is taking care of them. So the maid, in some cases, and you hear about this, is more of a mother to the kid than the mother.
Hmm.
And you kind of see a little bit with the aunt when she's going through her presentation that we're hearing, and she sits on and she goes, and that will give you more time to do the things that you want to do. And you see her like kind of flop down on the sofa. She has her laptop, she's got like the remote, she turns on the TV, and she's smiling
Right.
because now M3GAN could just do everything. I
Hmm.
don't have to do anything. I just be a mom and sit here and drink my wine and watch my stories. So, you
That's
know,
such a mom thing to say.
watch Twilight.
Such
That's
a
what moms do,
grandma
right?
thing, not a mom thing. I don't think I've ever heard my mom call them stories. Um,
Stories. I have to watch my
but
stories.
anywho, so yeah, you're right. No, it would be it would be the laziest fucking thing. Like, why would you even want? And you're right, people do that already with like their maids or they have somebody come in and just take care of the children and nannies, whatever, and take care of the children instead of pa- you know, the God damn it, the mom and dad. The mom and dad can go ski and and do all the things that they want to do without the children, or whatever. But like
Right.
when I was growing up, my parents took me everywhere because they had to, you know. They couldn't
Did they have
afford.
you on a leash? Were you like a kid
No,
on a leash? That would have
no,
been awesome, man. I'd love to see a picture of you on a leash.
no. I don't think I've ever been
Mm,
on a leash.
Jonathan on a leash.
That would be a freak on a leash for sure, you know, like corn. Anyway, so yeah, I don't know. Um it was a bad idea to have Megan sort of become a mother figure, and then also to be able to program her to learn everything. She like self-learn. That's a terrifying idea, you know. Um, at one point, she even says to Megan, like, "How do you know that? Like, you shouldn't know that. That's not something I programmed you with." Well, you programmed her with shit that she can learn, on her own. So now she's learning shit you don't want her to learn. How to.
Well, yeah, because she learned about death.
Yep.
When the aunt's like, no, don't do that. All of a sudden, you see it clicking, and she's
Yep.
downloading everything. And even that scene of her looking out the window, which I really like, and like Katie's playing, and she looks out and she sees like the helicopter. She kind of like does the boing, 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 at the
Like
helicopter,
Terminator
and it,
thing. Do-do-do-do.
yeah, well, it's learning. It's like, okay, what is that? Scan, process. And then she sees the butterfly that lands in the window, and it's like, doot, 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 and she like kind of
Could you
circles the
imagine
butterfly.
if that's how like children learned is by they just looked at something and just could go do-do-do-do. Okay, that's a butterfly.
Got it.
Do-do-do-do. You know?
Got it.
Yep. So then yeah, so at the end, toward the end when she's up there all, Frankenstein, she's sort of using the internet to contact her well, what's her name calls the aunt calls her friend, to tell her that she's taking Katie home and that she wants basically the thing to be destroyed, Megan to be destroyed because they just can't go through with it, right? And so the aunt starts real, or not the aunt, the friend realizes later, like, oh shit, this thing's alive, like awake, and stuff, and knows what's going on. And
She's
it's
just
called
faking it. She
what?
knows. Megan knows. That's why I keep saying Megan knows.
Megan
She
knows
knows what's going on.
everything.
Yeah.
Um, so then so they unhook Megan, and then Megan causes the fire, and everything. And honestly, I'm not gonna lie, I did not want those two to die, and I'm glad that they didn't. But I was worried about them because I forgot when I first watched it in theater if they had lived or died, you know,
That could be
and
a reshoot. You never know with them at the very end getting out of the car. That could
that
be a
could have been.
reshoot that maybe they did die and test audiences went, no, no, no. And
Yeah, because they like those characters. I liked them, I didn't think that
well,
they
and
deserved to die, you know.
no. Well, they were playing God and nothing goes well when that type of thing
Well, they're
happens.
just
So it's
workers for the person who's playing God, the person
right,
who's
but the workers normally die, earlier
right,
on. I mean, most of these movies, it's the assistant that gets killed first, and then
right.
the scientist gets killed
Which
last.
was
But
cool that it wasn't like that, but
yeah, because and it's nice that Katie finally realizes, near the end that they have to stop Megan. And I do like that the aunt wraps Megan up in plastic and tape, like she's like, Laura Palmer from Twin Peaks. I think
yeah,
just wreck because that's like the only way that she can make sure that she's saying Katie's like freaking out in the car because it's like a drug.
right.
Where's Megan?
Exactly.
Tell me.
Where's Megan? I want my Megan.
Yeah, you just can't keep her in the trunk.
Like,
And
why not? I mean,
yeah,
but I don't think she never explains to Katie that I believe she's killed people, but I don't think Katie would believe that anyway.
No, she
You
probably
know,
wouldn't even hear
she
it.
wouldn't have
Yeah,
believed it
it's
anyway, and
yeah,
then she would have just got more mad at the aunt,
yeah.
and then that would have bonded her more toward Megan, and stuff. So maybe the aunt not telling her was probably the best thing.
Yeah. And then
But
that
then
leads to
she
her being
sees
strapped
her
up like
what?
Frankenstein. Yeah, then that leads to her being strapped up like Frankenstein.
Yep.
Then the fire, because the assistants try to shut her down. Megan's not having it and busts out. The fire alarm's going off, and I like when she walks past it, it just turns it off.
Yeah, she just
It
goes,
just
"Whoop."
turns it,
Yeah,
just turns it right off.
why not?
That's when she kills the boss. Oh, that's when she
Kills
kills
the
the
boss and
boss,
the
kills the
assistant.
assistant. She goes up in the elevator. The one of the other assistants is telling everybody, like what to do. Children don't look at the camera. You need to be happy. That whole thing. And then a mom sees all the blood in the elevator, screams. Megan walks down the stairs outside. She gets into a car, which she can drive, I guess, because she can just link up to it.
Hmm.
And that's when she heads back to the aunt's house
Hmm.
for our final showdown.
Final showdown. So
Yeah.
that happens. The aunt, um, you know, the aunt and then Bruce gets called in, goes, boop, boop,
Well,
and
and at the house is when Megan tells everything.
right.
And I feel a little sorry for Megan at that point, because I don't think you're supposed to, but it's like, this is what you've done to me. You made me this way. You told me to protect Katie.
Yeah,
You
like if
you
you didn't program me to be this way, none of this would have happened,
yeah, like you mentioned shortcuts. If you didn't do shortcuts, stuff like this wouldn't have happened.
right. And yeah, so like, now why don't we just all stay together, you know, and everything. Like she kind of, and the aunt's not having it. Aunt does not trust this chick, and honestly, I get it, it's funny, like you'd have to kill Megan anyway, because you can't put her in jail. She would just break out, right? Like she would just do some kind of stuff, kill, you know what I mean? Like she would eventually have to be killed, and stuff. She's just too dangerous. But
Well, yeah, you,
that's
you,
why I
you have
like
to
your idea if
disassemble
she does
her. Yeah.
the military gets involved because she would be dangerous with the military for sure.
Well, there's a cut scene. The original ending of the Terminator is, if they kept the original ending of the Terminator, you wouldn't have Terminator 2. Because the original ending is, Michael Bean's body is being taken away. I guess like Sarah's gone to the hospital. And then you have two guys from like Skynet or just like, I don't know, some government agency. And they find in the rubble the chip. And they're
Hmm.
like, oh, I think so and so will be very interested in this. And that's where the original ending happened. But because of part two, we got Dyson and him building the chip from the arm and all that.
Hmm.
But this could be the same thing. Megan gets ripped apart and destroyed by Bruce. Katie is controlling Bruce after Megan beat the shit out of her aunt. And for playing with a pen, you don't think that's going to work twice. Maybe
Yep.
once, like it did, but not twice. Megan's too
Yeah, fool
smart.
me once, shame on you. Or
That's right.
you should fool me twice, shame on me.
Yeah.
She
Shit.
learned quick. She learned quick
Yeah. Yeah. And then
not to be
Katie
trusted on
pulls
that.
Megan
Which I
apart.
love that scene actually.
And
Mm.
I remember in the theater going, oh, please have the top part of her body drag across the floor like Chucky. And she did. I was so happy with that.
Why?
Because that's the when you watch something like a monster movie that has like a giant something, like a giant cockroach. At the very end, you want a human cockroach. You want like, oh my god, though everything is finished. And then all of a sudden the human cockroach pops up and it's like 10 feet tall. And you're like, that is badass. Terminator, same thing. Sarah Connor thinks she destroyed the Terminator,
Right.
and half of its body is still coming at her. That's what she had to use the big like compressor thing
Yep.
to destroy it finally.
You're
And
right.
so you want that. You want that half body to be going on the floor with the knife or whatever it is, kind of pulling itself forward. going after them again.
Hmm.
And I
Did
think
that happen in Chucky?
in Chucky, yeah, in the first film,
Okay.
in the first
In the
Child's Play
first
movie.
first real Child's Play movie, right?
Yeah, because he drags himself out of the fire, and
That's
he's
yeah.
and he's
So
all
okay,
burnt
I get
up.
it. I love that scene of her coming out and still
Just the
being,
hand.
yeah, still being alive even though she is like ripped apart, and stuff. She's still dangerous.
Well,
They
yeah,
haven't
because
they haven't
she's
killed
not
her yet.
she's not human. So tearing
Right.
her in half isn't going to kill her because everything's in her head.
Right. Like, and then
So
so
yeah,
they have to rip off her face, which makes it even scarier and creepier. And then they have to press the button or whatever that like pretty much just shuts her fucking down, period. You
yeah,
know.
which
Uh,
Katie then takes whatever she uses and slams it into
that
that
was like a
component.
screwdriver or
Which,
something,
yeah, I
or
think it is a screwdriver. Which earlier on, when she first discovers Bruce, the aunt tells her about it. She takes the face off. Here's the eyes. Here's its brain. We learn exactly how this all works,
right,
and that's a sign of good writing, because
right.
then you don't think later on anything about it.
We-
And then Katie's like, wait a minute, and that's when she stabs it, and that's how she knows, at least for the time being, that Megan's dead.
So we forgot to mention that the writer was the writer from *Malignant*.
Yes,
She
I think
did
we mentioned that on that video. I think we
on the
brought that up.
*Malignant* video, yeah.
Yeah.
But we didn't reiterate here because somebody might not have
Yes.
watched *Malignant*. So by the way, I did not realize she also wrote 2 episodes of Star Trek Strange New Worlds. So,
Oh, well, I'm excited about
oh,
that.
and ooh, she wrote an episode of Jupiter's Legacy. Um,
Don't know
she
that one.
wrote Hellfest. Okay.
Oh, I liked
Yeah,
Hellfest.
I liked Hellfest too. She was one of the writers of Hellfesters.
So she's hit and miss.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I haven't seen Star Trek, so I don't know. But
Anything that has Alex Kurtzman's name on it, I don't want to watch. So
oh, okay. Um,
yeah,
but yeah, I don't watch Star Trek, period, so I would know.
he destroys everything he puts his hands on. He is the only guy to make a Tom Cruise bomb. He directed The Mummy.
Ah, there you
So
go. So The Nun 2, she's also writing, so that's pretty cool.
that's good.
Or she wrote. It's coming out this year, so September of this year. So we'll have to do a review of that when
Yeah,
that
because we
comes
were
out.
talking about with Malignant that people keep saying there's like not a lot of diversity, and I remember I said, well, James Wan is like Asian Australian, and then you have the woman. I don't know what ethnicity she is,
I think she's
but
African American, maybe,
no,
but
the one that came up with the original idea for Malignant.
oh, right. I think you said she was Australian too, or something,
Maybe,
right?
yeah, maybe because of her accent. So it's a woman, and then they hand it over to an African American woman, and so it's like, so we don't have diversity in Hollywood? That seems to me that
We
these
do
are
in horror, which is awesome. I
so.
mean, people don't want to hear that crap because they constantly um they don't want to hear that because uh they don't want horror to survive. This is the truth about Hollywood. Hollywood doesn't like horror. However, Hollywood should like horror because horror makes a lot of fucking money on really low budgets and everything. And I was actually thinking about the other day, I think I brought it up to like Paul or something, but or maybe it was you. But I was talking about how if the world would just follow Blumhouse's, like the Hollywood just follow Blumhouse, right? And make a ton, like make 10, 20, $1 million movies, right? $3 million movies, whatever, right? And continue to do that, then they would make a shit ton of money if they did it right? And then they could make these, big, you know, movies that might make more money. You know what I mean? But
But
like,
but yes, and I agree with you, and I've said this 1,000 times, maybe more. There is no reason why the remake of Friday the 13th had to cost like $60 million.
Mm.
$60 million more of a budget than any of the Friday the 13th
All
films
combined.
combined.
Yeah.
So
And
why not give the people who made the remake of Friday the 13th, give them maybe 10 million and say, now you got to go figure it out. You
yeah,
got 10 million bucks. Make it work. Make it work.
maybe
Because
yeah, 10 million
because
is a pretty good because it is a franchise that people recognize.
well, yeah, because you want, but you don't want something like 60 million. I mean, it was huge. The budget was huge,
Right.
just like Nightmare on Elm Street, the remake was massive. So it's like no wonder we can't get anything anymore. So I did briefly show this for people, so I'll show it again since we are talking about M3GAN. This is the unrated version, and it's Blu-ray, DVD, digital
I
code,
don't have it yet. I want to buy it at some point.
and uh, it's got all its stuff here. And this is definitely worth uh, picking up.
20,
So
20 bucks, something like that.
yeah, I got it for a little cheaper. I got it at Best Buy, but like Target had it on sale, so they did a price match. So
Nice.
I got it for a little bit cheaper. And looking at, so just with M3GAN, just so all we already know, because I've mentioned this a few times, M3GAN cost 12 million,
$12
but it
million.
made 12 million, and it made 1,000. I'm sorry, $176 million. Now we just brought up horror. Evil Dead Rises just opened, right?
Right.
Its budget 19 million. It is already made, and this is what, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. We're now on Sunday. It is already made 40.3 million
That's
from a
just one
19 million
weekend.
dollar budget.
And they're gonna get probably double that on the next weekend because already people are talking about it. So word of mouth is gonna make more people interested in watching it, you know?
I
So
am so happy that it's making money, even if I didn't like it. I've said this before, like Smile, I didn't like it, but I'm so glad it made money
right.
because it just means we get more horror movies.
We get
And we
more horror movies. And that's what we need right now. I mean, you look at something like Terrifier 2, which cost cost like 250 grand and made $11 million. Now, to Hollywood, that's low, right? Like that's a low thing. But for an indie flick, that's huge. And that's the sort of thing you want, people to do. So I would love to see like horror, and that's why a lot of these that's why a lot of big time companies like Marvel and Disney hire, these horror directors, because they made money, on their low budget horror films, you know.
Well, and also they look at it as like with Terrifier 2, they said at the time when Terrifier 2 came out, it was the highest grossing movie of the year
Right.
because they went off of its budget.
Hmm.
Nothing else was making back its budget.
Right.
Terrifier 2 made more money, like made 3 times its budget.
Hmm.
Nothing else was. The only two films I think that did that type of thing were Spider-Man No Way Home and Top Gun Maverick. That
Hmm.
was it.
And I mean, they did
So
that with like no marketing, basically. Like they didn't have P&A, which print and advertising, I guess they should call it DNA now, but
DNA.
I don't know if that sounds even better,
DNA.
but DNA. Um, but like digital and because there's no print anymore, really. There's hardly any print. Print is sort of
Print is
dead.
dead.
Yeah. Digital is the way of the future right now. And and that's why I kind of get into fights with people about, people will be like, I want to watch M3GAN on Peacock instead of buying the movie and stuff. And I'm like, come on, watch it on physical media. But understandably, I've talked to people who are normies who aren't in the film business necessarily, but they watch movies all the time, you know. They say that they would rather stream a movie because it's simple. I can just go and, I did that when I watched last night when I watched This is the End. I streamed it on HBO Max. I have the Blu-ray, could have put the Blu-ray in there, but I figured why not stream it on HBO Max? It's not going to skip, potentially, you know what I mean? Like there's the chance that like I mean the only problem would be if the internet went out, you know. But if that went out, probably power went out. So power goes out, can't watch anything, can I? Really? Well, I
That's
have a
right.
generator,
Yeah.
so I could have, but you know. Anyway, the point is, I'd rather watch a movie on streaming these days than sometimes owning it.
Oh, I would rather own it. So
I mean, I would rather own it too, but I'd also rather if
I
I
I guess it depends on what it is. I haven't sent it to you yet, but I did my video for Reviews After Midnight, and it was a War of the Dead, and the director made another movie basically about the Abominable Snowman. I'm like,
Mhm,
oh, I want to see that. Well, if it's on Tubi, I'll watch it. So there, I don't mind streaming because it's like kind of an instant thing. This
right.
way, I don't have to hunt it down, buy it, wait for it to be sent to me. I could, but if something like M3GAN, it's just like, no, I want to own that, but I
Yeah, you
can
want to go to the
stream
theater and
Abominable
see it,
Snowman.
then you want to own it, or whatever if you can. Did you go to the theater and see it, or did you just stream it
Did I? What
for
did I
Megan?
do? I think I went to the theater. I think maybe.
Um,
I think I did because I was really excited for. It. I think I did. I think I saw it
yeah,
at
I
the
think you
theater.
saw it in the theater too. I think so.
Yeah.
I fucking I you know what? I didn't tell you this, but next week I'm getting the Regal pass again, you know. I would have got the movie tavern pass, but apparently it's not in my city. Their pass doesn't work in my state or city or whatever. I don't know why they don't have it for every thing, but maybe it's something they're trying and they'll eventually get it. But I was like, I'll go back to Regal because I want to see movies and I don't want to spend $80 for, 8 movies, you know? Like if I want to go see 8 movies, I mean, I don't know if I will per month, but if I want to, I can, if I do the unlimited pass. So I'm gonna go back to that. So it'd be cheaper,
Well,
you know.
the that guy that gave me that gift card,
Hmm.
so it was $25 on there, and when I went to go see Evil Dead Rise, it was $14.
Hmm.
Like what the fuck? So I used the card. So I still had like 750 left on it. But it's just like, man, I mean, not that I enjoyed the movie. I wouldn't mind paying for it, but movies are just so damn expensive. I mean, unless I absolutely want to see it, I'll just maybe I will just wait for streaming or wait for it to come out on
I mean, there's
physical.
a bunch I really want to see and stuff. So,
The
but I
one that I'm curious about, and this is not a horror movie. You know how they play like throughout the month, they'll do kind of like the old school movies
mhm,
with Voz, Sound of Music. They're playing out here Blazing Saddles.
nice.
And I'm like, how is that going to go over?
I
I
mean,
mean,
the people
I
want to
almost
see
want to
it, will
see
see
it.
it, you know.
I'm curious, like, are they going to censor it? Is it going to, I mean, the N word is said in that like 100 times. So it's like, what do
Probably
parents take
not,
their
but
kids
like
to
anybody
it?
who's seen it knows. Anybody who hasn't seen it, you know, I mean, what does Disney do? They put like a disclaimer over everything these days of Peter Pan.
Yeah.
They put a disclaimer because Peter Pan had the Native Americans kind of were. I agree, like it was very uncool, like me and
But
Paul talked about it, or Paul and I talked today
I don't
about
agree with it.
what
I don't agree with it.
Paul and I kind of talked about today, how there were some things that, like when somebody slapped somebody on, in a movie or something from back in the day, and whatnot, that's sort of not cool to see these days. Like we shouldn't be sort of, sh we shouldn't, you know, uh, but we shouldn't stop that. We shouldn't censor that necessarily. We should just not like kind of bring that back, in some way or
But then
another.
who's to say that 10 years from now Megan's not going to get censored? Like it's not going to have like a warning on the front of it because she's supposed to represent an 8-year old, and she's killing people. and a bully gets on top of her.
But she's not an 8-year-old. She's a robot,
No, but she's
like
supposed to be. Katie looks at her as her friend, as like an 8-year-old
well,
friend. So
and as a doll too, though, because a lot of times they do just mention she's a doll, she's a toy, she's a, like I think they were very careful. There's nothing that I don't think would get anybody in trouble for
well, you never know
this.
these days because the far left is so sensitive and wanting to censor everything that I'm really not surprised these days that some things get by.
I'm
You
not even
know,
surprised anything gets made these days, but like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm surprised like things aren't, like, because even when I was working on a script, I've got to be very careful. Like, if I want to sell it to Hollywood, what do I can't say anything that's going to be offensive to anybody. You have to make sure sort of the demographic. You don't have to necessarily say the demographic, but you have to leave it open where certain um people could be, like you can't
well, I
have
do that. Yeah,
yeah, you can't have
there's
a character
I
be
I never
uh
say Bob
a
21 black. I never say
right.
that. I just say Bob
Yeah.
21.
No, I don't do that either. And
Yeah.
but I do have names that could be basically any race, that way it could be the director or producer who decides, okay, I want the main character to be black, right? Um, and I don't write the characters to be any specific. I don't go, yo, dog, like I don't do that shit because that's gonna get you into a lot of trouble, and stuff. Because it's just it's not, it's not appropriate, I guess, or whatever. So what I do is I kind of write, and I try to make sure that it's not offensive to people because we do live in a society right now that I feel are very offended easily. And all it takes is one person these days. Honestly, it's one person to go, I don't like this. And then another person agrees, then another person, then another person.
That that is true, but also I watched something that dealt with it was a comedy that dealt with like behind the scenes on television. I forget what
Hmm.
show it was. And they said one person complained. That equals 11.
And he was
So
11 people complaining.
one equals 11. So
Okay.
that's how the studio in this show looked at it, as if one person complains, that's as good as 11 people complaining.
Why 11?
That's just the number that they used. I don't
Okay.
know.
I
They
don't
just
know if
used
there
that
was a
number.
specific reason for a
No.
number. So two people complained, 22 people,
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
I guess whatever. But
Yeah. Do we
but
want
I
to
get it. What I'm getting, what you're saying is like one person complains, and they count that as like 11 people are complaining. That means we need to stop from one person from complaining, so we don't feel like more people are going to complain, you know. Um, which I get, but I'm just like the whole time I'm like, you gotta. I mean, what's to say what's offensive, you know? I
me?
mean,
Me. If I think it's offensive, it's offensive. And that's how these people look at it. I think it's offensive. So therefore, you should not do it.
but then you shouldn't do anything.
No,
Like
they should just
that's
turn the channel.
no, no, no.
Don't
I'm saying
don't don't listen to the music. Don't watch the movie. Don't watch the TV show. Just turn the channel.
right, but they're gonna complain about it because that's what we do
The
in
the
our
worst thing
society.
that happened was Tipple Gore got them to put those advisory stickers on the CDs. Guess what CD sold more?
The ones that have the
Idiots.
advisory,
Yeah, because then kids went to go find them.
right? Like, hey, this has cursing in it. I can't
Yeah.
wait to listen to it. You know, and
It,
you know what's so funny is I'm surprised South Park is still around and still doing exactly the same stuff that they've
well,
been
they
doing.
did change Token. Token is now Tolkien.
Okay, like
So they
J.R.R. Tolkien.
yeah, there's a whole episode. I don't know if I think it's Stan maybe.
Was it a joke or was it
No,
like
no, Stan calls Token Token. And
Okay.
everybody goes, "Oh my god, what did you just call him?" He goes, "Token, that's his name." And he goes, "No, his name is Tolkien." And he does. He goes, "Do you mean like Lord of the Rings?" And she's like, "Yes, his parents were really big fans. His name is Tolkien." And he goes, "My God, all this time I've been calling him Tolkien, a token. I thought his name was Token." And so he has to then make up for being a racist. So now when you watch the new episodes of South Park, his name is Tolkien, not
Oh God.
Token.
Oh God, did they
So
get rid of Butters or not Butters? What was it? Jimmy, like
Timmy,
or Timmy. There's
Timmy. No,
Timmy, Jimmy. There's, I
I
mean,
love Jimmy.
uh,
They're all still there. It's just
right.
they've gotten a little, I guess, when it comes to like the black character, they changed the name. So
I mean, it was a funny joke for like, for a little bit, but like it just became his name, you know? Like it didn't even become like, oh, he's the token black guy. Like it didn't become like that anymore. So I don't know. Honestly, we've gotten way off of Megan, I guess, kind of, but
yeah, I guess we could start to wrap this up because we've been going
yeah,
on for 2 hours.
I know. Well, that's what I was telling you. You were like, hey, let's do 2 episodes. I'm like, nope, don't have time for that. And I was like, because I knew it would be at least an hour and a half, because that's
No, and
oh,
I still have to watch tomorrow's movie.
I do too tonight, tomorrow. So
I have to watch it
yeah,
tonight.
you don't have it, you know, where you have work tomorrow. Um,
Yeah,
this will be my work for tomorrow. Um, all right, well, yeah, so let's wrap it up. What score would you give this?
five.
A five?
Five. I think this is James Wan's best produced film that is not The Conjuring or like Insidious.
I don't think, have you given the Insidious or Conjuring fives?
No.
So this is the
I just
best
think,
movie, period, that you think of
yeah,
James
I love
Wan's
this
ever
film. I mean, for
been a part of.
four and a half to five at least. But yeah, I
Yeah.
think this is a great movie.
Um, I would say 4.5. For me, I can't. It's really hard for me to give fives. Out of fives. It's like it really has to like completely blow me away. And this movie was fun and enjoyable, but I think there's just and I think it's really good. It's just it's not something that like I will watch every year or something, like I'll watch part two when that comes out in 2025, but I'm not like, you know, super, you know what I mean?
No, I mean, if somebody came to me and said, "Hey, do you want to watch Megan?" I'd say sure. I just want it to be that extended version, but
Right.
over the two. But because I thought this was just going to be Chucky. I thought there was just going to be just a Chucky ripoff. And so when once I heard it was like science and maybe military type stuff could happen later, then it was just like, oh, now I'm interested
Yeah.
because now it's just not Chucky. It's about capitalism and corporations and like I said, like Frankenstein and
Yeah, there's more to it. There's layers and
yeah.
everything, which doesn't happen in a lot of these horror films, It's more
Now
smart and
now this isn't five like Citizen Kane five. This is Megan five.
right.
So yeah, I mean
Yeah,
it's
this
not
isn't
so
your favorite movie of all time or anything.
no, it's not The
Probably wouldn't even
Graduate
be on your
five.
top 20 would be my guess. But it would
No, no,
not
but if I
yet.
had to make a list of James Wan movies or Killer Doll movies, it would
Right.
definitely be probably in the top five.
Yeah, Killer Doll movies are probably one of my favorites. The original Child's Play is probably up there higher, but it's different, you know. And I like Megan more than Annabelle, honestly.
Oh yeah,
I'd pick if I had to choose between watching Annabelle or Megan, I'd choose Megan. But like any of the Annabelles. But I feel like, I just can't give it a five, just out of,
that's
like
fun.
but I do love it. I do enjoy it. I will watch it. I will probably buy it at some point, and I'm looking forward to watching The Nun 2, you know. I'm glad they didn't call it The Nun 2.0. Um, yeah,
The nun is back. The habit is back.
Oh, she's gonna break the habit again.
Mhm.
Wasn't that the Sister Act 2, breaking the
Sister Act
habit?
2. Yeah, so yeah, like the habit is back or breaking a habit. Yeah, something like that.
That's so funny. Um,
So
yeah, well, Whoopi Goldberg needs to be in the next nun movie.
I don't know. She's getting canceled all over the place. So
You know what? Every like,
she just
uh,
keeps saying stuff that people
yeah,
don't like. So she
I
just keeps
know. This
getting.
is why I left Twitter too. Like, this will be what I say this and will end. But I just got sick of Twitter recently. I deactivated it because of the biggest problem I have with it is everybody has this obnoxious voice on there these days. Like, everybody has their opinion. They're gonna say it, and I just feel like there was way more because I would follow people, but then I would not follow some and I would still see things, advertisements, whatever. And it's because what Musk is doing. He's infiltrating my fucking feed and everything with his
I have no
own
problem with
shit.
Twitter at all. None.
Yeah. Well, you have a Twitter, don't you? You just don't use
I
it.
do, but I only post what I post on Facebook. I mean, I
Right.
don't sit on there and scroll and argue and comment. So I don't give a shit what Musk does. And
Yeah.
I find the whole thing with the blue check marks to be absolutely hilarious. So I think it's funny that he's doing that, you know.
Well, no, I mean, I feel like he's, when he's doing that, he's basically he's this close to making it just a subscribe platform that you're gonna have to be a blue check mark at some point. Because right now that's what he's
Mm,
aiming for of people. He's promoting other people's pages and says, if you want to follow them, you have to, be a blue check mark and you have to
I don't
subscribe with money.
I don't know about that. I've heard differently, but okay.
All right. Anyway,
Yeah.
everybody, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Uh, check us out next week when we're going to be talking about Lights Out, So I'm
Lights out. Uh-huh.
really excited.
Dance, dance, dance. Lights out. Uh-huh. Dance, dance, dance.
Is Megan going to be in this too? Is she going to
That was
start
Peter
dancing?
Wolf. That was his big hit
I don't know
back
who
in the
Peter
day.
Wolf is.
He was the lead singer of the Jake Giles band.
The what? Oh, Jay Giles band. I know that.
Jake Giles band. Yeah.
I didn't.
Centerfold and his solo album, his big song was Lights Out.
That's not fair. He's
Uh-huh.
not Jay Giles.
No, he's Peter Wolf.
Yeah. Why wasn't he the Peter Wolf band?
He's Peter Wolf.
Right. Who's Jay
His
Giles?
he left that band.
Yeah, but who was? Was there a Jay Giles?
No, and he was not on first or on second.
It's just like everybody calls Mark McGrath Sugar Ray. It's like, dude, that's not my name.
That was a test. I had to, I'll say this and then we can go. When I worked at Tower Records a billion years ago, is you had to take a test. It was just more for fun type of thing that the manager would do. But they would say, is Van Morrison a person or a band? And then you would have to answer a person or a band. And she would do that with the new employees to see what they would say.
Oh, because then if they know they're rock or not, right?
Yeah, is no. It's if you know your bands. Is
Right.
Jethro Tull a person or a band? So
I don't even
it's
know. Like, I don't
so
know this enough. Uh,
so
yeah.
it's it's kind of like the
Is Van Morrison? I think that's a person. I feel like that's a
Van
person.
Morrison is a person,
Okay.
Jethro Tull is a band.
Okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
So
You
you gotta
learned
know that. But
something new here on
you
Mainstream
do, just
Mondays.
like the does not count. So you should never put the in front of anything. You can say the Beatles, but if you're looking them up, it's technically Beatles, comma the.
It's funny. I'll say this, then we'll end. But I was on one of those websites looking up movies and everything, and they had an alphabetical order. They had all the thes together.
Ugh,
I was like, wait, what?
no, that's not how it
That's
works.
not how it's
The is
supposed to
not a
work, but
word.
it was a British company. I don't know if that means anything. If
No,
like
it shouldn't
it
because Beatles
shouldn't,
would
but
be the same
I don't know.
thing.
Oh well,
It's yeah, it's also like the Rolling Stones or Rolling Stones. The band's actually called Rolling Stones.
it would be
Is it
Rolling Stones the
no, just Rolling Stones.
right, but Rolling
Sometimes it
Stones with the comma the.
No, just Rolling Stones. I
I
went
don't.
to go see lowercase the Rolling Stones.
Uh,
I went to go see that's just like Eagles. They're not the Eagles, they're just Eagles.
yeah.
So you wouldn't look up the Eagles, you would just look up Eagles because
Yeah, but you would look up the Doors because they are the
that
Doors.
is the name of the band is the
Yeah,
Doors.
the
Yes.
Doors.
But that would
So,
be Doors, comma the. Yeah.
which, yeah. So, anyway, thank you so much, John. This was very educational. And just like Megan, we're all learning. Hope James Wan, thank you so much. And Alika Cooper, I think is her name, the writer. And so thank you so much, Alika. You are awesome.
Yes.
We're looking
Write more
forward
good stuff.
to, yes, right more. I'm excited to see Nun 2 more now. Because I wasn't a big fan of the Nun first one, but I think this girl's gonna make it like pop. So we'll see.
I hope so. I think so.
Until, yep, until then, everybody have a good one. Bye.
Bye.